G'day everybody and welcome to my Aussie gardening kitchen. My name's Daz and in this video I'm showing you how I make my delicious Aussie damper, a no knead, no yeast bread. Absolutely love it, so do stick around and join me while I make it. Now this video is actually being made as part of a multi-channel collaboration and I'll be telling you more about that in just a moment. So as you can see here, I've got some really simple ingredients. I've got self-raising flour, which I'm about to sieve into the bowl. I've got some unsalted butter. I've got some milk here, which is a 100% full-fat milk. I've got a little bit of salt, and that's it. Now, if you want to leave out the milk, you actually can, because you can use water and it'll be fine. So first of all, I'm just going to get this flour, get it sieved into the bowl. Shouldn't take too long at all. So once the flour's in, we'll get the butter. I've let the butter go to room temperature and we'll just drop that in. Now some people will say to put the butter in when it's hard, because what you want to do is you want to break it up into little crumbles, almost like a crumble. But I do it this way and it works out fine. So we're just going to mix that butter into the flour and just get it incorporated like a crumbly texture. Now, if you don't mind, I would love to take this moment to tell you about this awesome collaboration that I'm taking part in and how you could possibly be winning a prize by watching these videos and commenting. So the awesome YouTube channel 2 Lilu Creates is hosting this collaboration and she's got a whole bunch of awesome channels and I'm very honored to be a part of it and thank you so much for asking me. We're all doing 2 videos each this month and this is my first of 2 videos. And what's going to happen is we're all doing our November themed videos. And what you can do is watch all the videos in full and leave a meaningful comment. And then on December 1st, she's going to be having a draw, a random draw. And someone is going to be picked randomly out of all those comments. And they'll be winning a prize on December 1st on the 2 Lilu Creates channel. So do make sure that you watch all the channels, subscribe to them, keep up with all the videos as they come out through the month, and then make sure you are back at 2 Lilu Creates channel on December 1st to see if you're the lucky winner. And there you have it. So easy to do. It's such an easy process. We've got the salt here. You can add as much as you like. I've got a measured amount and the recipe will be down below in the description of this video. Just give that a bit of a mix in. Now one thing I forgot to mention is that I'll be baking this in a pot in the oven. So I've actually got that in the oven now, preheating with the oven. So in goes the milk. Just pour it in there. Just pour the milk in. There's no particular way that you have to do it. Just don't miss the bowl. And then what I like to do is once the milk's in, get a butter knife and just start stirring it with a butter knife. Just incorporating that liquid in with the dry ingredients. And there we go. Time to get the fingers back in there. So I'm just going to give that a mix with my fingers now and combine it together into a ball like a dough. One thing about damper is that you don't have to be really precise like a lot of baking recipes need you to be. So you do need to try and stick to the recipe as close as possible, but really a teaspoon of water here or there, or another tablespoon of flour here or there, that sort of thing, it's not really going to make much difference. You can just adjust your consistency to the way you need it without affecting the whole recipe in any bad sort of way. So I've actually added about a teaspoon of water. Even though I used milk in the recipe, that teaspoon of water is not really going to do much other than just giving me that little bit of moisture that I needed to make the dough a bit softer. All right, so that's come together well. Just a little bit of flour on the bench, not too much. We'll now turn this dough out onto the bench, like so. Just grabbing all those little bits and pieces. And then we'll just start to knead it like so. Just going to pull it around and fold it into itself. I like to pull and then push with the heel of my hand, turning it just a little bit each time. Now this does look a little bit dry, but this is the way I make it and it always comes out fine. So I'm not too stressed at the moment. That there is pretty much all I'm going to do. So with damper, this goes back a long way in Australia's history. The Indigenous people make their own bread, similar by using grains and things from the bush. Also, many years ago, Australia had what we called Stockmen, and there's other names for them, but essentially they were men that would ride on horseback and they'd move livestock from property to property, maybe from state to state, and there was only so much they could carry with them. So they'd have maybe flour, salt, sugar, dry ingredients, and of course they'd have water. Maybe when they went to some properties, they'd get some milk and they could have some milk. And what they would do was they'd make what was called damper, and they'd make this bread out of the flour, salt or sugar, and say the water, for instance, and they'd make a dough, get it cooking. Now, they'd either put it straight into the coals and cook it in the coals, or they'd have cast iron pots and they could cook it in the cast iron pots on the campfire. Now, this is a pretty popular thing for people to make when they go camping, and people still make it when they go out bush. And of course, it's not bad to be making it at home in the kitchen as well. Okay, so that's it. It's not meant to be fancy. It's not a fancy bread at all. This is, as I was saying, the Stockmen, for instance, I don't think they cared about fancy, and it shouldn't be. You shouldn't mess around with it too much, and you really don't need to decorate it and stuff like that, because that's just not an Aussie damper. So now that I've got it into the ball shape, what I like to do is actually just push it down a little, like that. Almost give it a flat top. I like to keep it round, just for the round shape. And then grab a knife, and I like to score it through like this. And then what happens is when it bakes, it's going to have those separation marks there, and you can come along later and you can break it off, or you can go along the lines as a guide and cut it off yourself. But that's not necessary. You don't have to do that. So now we'll get the pot out of the oven and we'll get it in there and get it cooking. Whoa. Okay, so what I like to do is just put a little bit of flour in the base of the pot. Not too much, like so. And then take that damper, place it into the pot. I just put a bit of flour, just sprinkle some flour on top of it, just like that. And then it's time to go into the oven. We've got the lid, grab the lid, and we'll pop that into the oven, and we'll get that into the oven like so, middle shelf. Now that's gone into my oven at 200 degrees Celsius. Fahrenheit, I'll pop on the screen right now. Now, as far as timing goes, for me, that size loaf in this oven takes about 25 minutes to half an hour, but your oven is going to vary. They can't be all exactly the same. So that's a basic guide, but please, I do recommend after say 20 minutes, do check it, and then maybe check it every 5 minutes or so after that, and just see if it's done. Now, if you want to know if it's done, you can actually obviously look at the color on top, but if you do lift it out and turn it over and knock on the bottom, you can get a hollow type of sound, and that's a really good indicator that it's cooked inside. Okay, it's now been 30 minutes. Let's get it out of the oven and check it out. Take off my lid awkwardly because I've broken the handle. Oh, I can smell fresh damper. Yum. Whoa, that was hot. Nice and hot. Okay, let's see if it has that. Yep, I think it's got that hollow sound. As you can see, it's a nice small loaf there, and as you can see, it's got a beautiful crust on it, and it's got all those beautiful lines that have been pre-marked, bringing in the accompaniments. And yes, as Vegemite, I'm not doing it to be Australian. We really do eat a lot of Vegemite, as you can see by the size of the container, and we love Vegemite on damper, so I've got to do it. Now, just to point out, you can actually have jam or maple syrup or break it apart or cut wedges, and dip it into stews and casseroles and soups and all types of things like that. It's so delicious. Now, if you wanted to, you could add a bit of sugar to this, and then you could have that with maybe a maple syrup or something like that. Oh, honey, there's just so many things you can do with the good old Aussie damper. Anyway, my mouth's watering as I'm talking. Let's just cut this thing open. Where do I start? Okay, here we go. I've cut a wedge. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I don't know if you can see the steam coming off that. It is awesome. Oh, it smells so good. Oh, look at that. That is sensational. All right, let's get a big whack of butter on there. Get the Vegemite happening. With Vegemite, you don't want too much. I'm probably putting on more than the average person. You only want to put it on thinly. It's very salty, but it's oh so good. My mouth's watering. Here goes. That is so good. I absolutely recommend this to everybody out there. It is so good. If you want to see more on damper, I've got a pumpkin damper video where I make pumpkin damper using pumpkin powder that I've dehydrated myself from my own homegrown pumpkins. So if you click on the video right now, that's going to take you to that video. And also I've got another video where I show you how I make the pumpkin powder from my own homegrown pumpkins. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.